Thank you very much. Next speaker is Hollis Spitler, also based at the Washington State University Mount Vernon Research and Extension Center, talking about spotted wing Drosophila.
Is this it? So this moves in? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you all hear? Okay, good. I'm going to talk about the use of microsprinkler systems in blueberries. This spans about 3 years of testing that we've done, and I hope it makes sense. All right. Why are we looking at microsprinklers? We don't all have small orchards where you can go through and just blast the crap out of them without knocking the berries off. Notice the one on the right, there tends to be a little bit of damage going on there. Whether it's an overhead or you have an orchard sprayer that you're going down through, how much power you're using on that blaster can also affect how much drop you're going to get from fruit. Not all of us can afford this, and sometimes some of our studies have shown that you're really applying the first top third of the plants. So there's 2/3 that may not be getting any kind of pesticide at all. Our first study was in 2013 down in Oregon with cooperation with the folks at Oregon State, Wei Young. We looked at a system that was already set up for cooling the berries at Pan American berry growers. We looked at both micro sprinklers versus air blast, and Bev has already shown you some of that work. Here again is the same thing, looking at the air blast versus the micro sprinkler, and over the first 7 days, there's very little difference in the mortality that we are getting on spotted wing Drosophila looking at leaf sampling. Again, too, the micro sprinkler applications show this very low MRL on the fruit that we collected. And even, I think at 3 DAT, that's 0.1. And notice most of our exporting countries are up there at 0.5. That's for Mustang Max. I think Canada is 0.1. So we're still within limits. Our second year, we started at 2013 and then finally got it set up by 2014. We looked at 4 different types of heads. This was at the research station in Mount Vernon. We used a sprayer to get the pressures that we needed because all these heads had pressure regulators, either 40 PSI or 60 PSI. This was so we could charge the whole system before the spray started to go. Down in Oregon, it was sort of a surge that went through the lines. But I'm not going to get into the technical too much. All right, we also put in clear piping so that we could see our blued application water and know when it had hit the front and the back of our systems. These heads tend to have some problems. Many of them are constructed in such a way that the water does hit part of the head. And so you get some splash effects and also what I call drizzling effect. But the engineers have told me that they think they can figure that out. We also tried to look throughout the plant, whether it was perpendicular or parallel to where the heads were, and then put in testing paper, such as this, to see what kind of coverage we were getting. For the first time, when we set up the one at Mount Vernon, we used about 100 gallons per acre, and you can see the lower samples, there wasn't a lot of really good coverage. We jumped to 150 the next year, and that's fairly good coverage in 6 different places. And the cross is between heads, and the X is between heads, and the cross is parallel to heads. So fairly good coverage in all 4 different types of heads. This is what a leaf sample bioassay looks like. The leaves are placed in the Petri. The insects are placed there. We give them a little bit, some nice food that doesn't have any pesticide on it, a little bit of water, and then in 24 hours, we see how many have died. In the 2014 test, all 4 heads gave us excellent control up to 7 days. I feel that 85% is pretty darn good. For residue, this is not saying what this would have done wet spray, okay? That's another talk. In Linden, we set up what we thought was the best 2 sprinklers. One of them we had some engineering problems with, but on the best, I feel, sprinkler that we had to use, which is an R10, we got these types of results, sampling 3 different places on the plants in 2 different, both the parallel and the perpendicular spots. I lumped those together, and you can see fairly good control all the way through the study. That's with Mustang Max. So we are convinced that this is a way of applying pesticides. The heads probably are going to get engineered a little differently, but the other thing is they may be able to be used for other reasons, such as cooling fruit, and up here, even probably trying to protect during frost in the beginning of the year. So my points are, there is a reduction in probably fruit damage because you don't have a machine going down there knocking down everything. Insect control is equal to most of the other methods. The MRLs seem to be smaller or lower with the microsprinkling systems. And there's definitely a lower exposure to workers in the field when it's being applied. I want to thank the people at Wei Young and his staff, the Pan American Growers, Settler Supply Company down in Oregon area. We had Nelson Irrigation up here help us. The Small Hort program at Mount Vernon helped quite a bit. And then this year, WaterTech and Infield Farms. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Yeah, in having upright sprinklers, this is the reason why I didn't go with it. I went to the ground tape rather than the sprinklers, is that the problem that your picking machines are going to be breaking these standpipes off.
At infields, I didn't lose one. I've never, if they're at the right height and your pickers actually know what they're doing, okay, you shouldn't hit these, okay? They're fairly good. And we even did some studies where we watched them over the winter, and many of these do a really good job of making it through the winter and not having problems with them. Some of the old type sprinkler things have a lot of metal in them, and that can rust and stuff like this. We also looked for insect damage, slugs, anything else, But if you watch, most of it's pretty well. It winterizes pretty well. And like I said, there's more than 1 or 2 things you can do with these sprinklers. Any other questions?
Over here. Did you look at electrostatic sprayers?
No, we did not. Nope.
Okay, with that, I'd like to thank Hollis and move on to the next speaker with the interest of time. The next speaker,